Ever since I proclaimed that a monster lived under my bed back in the 6th grade, ghosts have kept quite far away from me. At first they thought it was just a simple, harmless joke, but after I kept constantly bringing up the subject, pleading for somebody to believe and help me out, it became clear. I was not joking. I eventually became the laughingstock of the class, getting teased every second of the school day, and it didn't stop when I got home either. We constantly got prank calls, and pranks pulled on us. Halloween would have to be the worst time for me to get ridiculed, but we won't go there. My teacher wasn't any better than the students. Mrs. Winfrey always laughed along with the class. Nobody just seemed to believe me. Every time I heard the monster under my bed, I hid under the covers and begged for it to come to my school one day and show itself so everybody could see that I was not lying. Like most monsters you see, he just never came. It gets worse, trust me. I thought once I became 18, I could move far away from my school, maybe even another state, so that nobody would know of my, to them, strange proclamations of monsters living under my bed. At least that way I wouldn't be treated as if I had escaped from a mental institution. I was even in the local newspaper one time, with the headline, "Boy Claims to See Monster Under Bed." At first I became ecstatic. Somebody would finally see the real story. That feeling quickly diminished when I read the first line of the article saying, "Strange deranged boy who attends Clark Elementary stresses he sees an imaginary monster under his bed." To make matters worse, the article was placed in the same section of the newspaper as the word search. None of the old people do those. Plus, depending how far they're into Alzheimer's, they'll believe anything. It just wasn't going good for me, until I turned 18, that was. There was just 2 months left of school. Just 40 more school days, I kept telling myself, and began to count down the days. At 2 days until graduation, the worst thing that could possibly happen did. My 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Winfrey, released a book about all her teaching experiences. The book was 379 pages long. The story of me seeing a monster under my bed, and the trouble it caused, took up 376 pages. The other two being the copyright page, in which I was not mentioned once, and the opinion page, in which I was not commented on nicely. This book, entitled My Teaching Experiences with Monsters, would lead you to believe the monsters would be the children. Well, how you were mistaken. The book became an instant bestseller, serving up laughs to everybody who read it. Everybody had heard of the book. Okay, well, perhaps not everybody, for now at least. By this point, I absolutely hated Mrs. Winfrey. Anybody who had read the book knew me. Included in the book were numerous pictures of me, so wherever I went, I was known. So after graduation, I decided to move somewhere where nobody would be able to read. Oh, well, scratch that, I was going to, until I was watching the TV and saw a commercial for the premiere of the Oprah Winfrey Show. I said to myself, okay, well, at least it's not on a major network that nobody would be able to watch, and besides, who would want to listen to a boring old teacher anyway? Then I could have just fainted. Out of the TV came the dreaded words, "Coming to ABC this fall." Once I had woken from my sleep of shock, I had decided where to move. Where nobody had access to a book, internet, or the TV. I had three choices: Alaska, Montana, or Africa. I chose Africa, and thus has been home now for 12 years. I flew over to Africa as soon as I had seen the commercial, and signed myself up for the safari. Knowing I wouldn't be coming back, I packed all my bags with everything I owned, and brought them with me. And onto the safari. My plan was to jump out halfway through and build a shelter in the savannah for me to live. The plan worked. I've been here now for 12 years and have not been ambushed by a pride of lions or squished by a herd of elephants. Tomorrow just so happens to be my 30th birthday, and I'm planning something big. Big as in big failure. The time I've been here definitely does not seem like 12 years. It seems about 50 years when you're bored as hell every day. There's just simply nothing to do in the savannas of Africa. The next day, my birthday, I sat outside by the large baboa tree next to my house. I took a look back on just how sucky my life has been, recalling all of the terrible moments of pure embarrassment. Then I thought of my teacher popped into my head. I wonder how Miss Winfrey was doing. She was probably a hobo, I said to myself. Who would want to listen to her anyway? That showed absolutely no chance of being successful. Later that night, I was still recalling the past when I heard a boom in the clouds. I shot up and took my guard. I looked upwards toward the direction of the noise, and saw the clouds beginning to part. A bright light shone from above, and I squinted my eyes so I could focus clearly. It seemed as if something was floating down from the sky. It appeared to be taking the course to land right next to me. It looked like somebody was just wearing bed sheets and that they wrapped around them. That was until it touched the ground. It was this freaky-looking thing. I'd have described it as a failed Halloween costume. The strangest thing happened to me. I backed away. The strange thing approached me. I backed away, but the baboa tree behind me stopped me from going any further. It reached out its hand and said, "Kid, I have come. You insisted I prove that I am real, so here I am. I had to think about what the heck was going on here. Then I remembered that I had begged the monster from under my bed in the 6th grade to come to my class and prove that he was real. This must have been the monster that made my life a complete misery. I didn't know what to be mad at. The fact that he caused me to be living with draft dung in the African savannah, or my request for him to show himself was just a few years late. Do you realize I said for you to come about 20 years ago? I said angrily. Sorry, kid. There are a lot of people like you, you know. There are many to see, and by the time I get to them, their life is already a mess, and it's too late. Look at you, for an example. Oh, jeez, thanks, I said in a snappy tone, and walked back and forth trying to calm myself down. Now what do? I asked. Well, boy, my suggestion is to go back home and get revenge. Do what they've done to you. Get right back at them. Make Oprah's life a living hell. Teach kids life is hard. Be evil and start gossip about others just as they have done to you. From that moment on, I agreed. That was my life goal from this point on. I swallowed all my courage and flew back to the U.S. with a new mission. I went to the nearest bank and took out a loan for $50,000. The first place I went after that was a local sign store down the street. I walked in and asked for a sign. I came out about 50 minutes later with a new sign in hand. I put it onto my pickup truck and said, "Ah, TMZ," I said to myself. "This could catch on."